Men claim to understand women, yet stumble into the same traps century after century. The problem is not that women are mysterious. It is that men refuse to see their strategies. Tonight, I will reveal the truths that are hidden in plain sight, the truths that enslave men while women quietly hold the strings. The first truth you must grasp, if you wish to understand the hidden power of women, is that they are masters of concealment. Unlike men, who often reveal their intentions too easily in their words, their faces, or their actions, women perfect the art of hiding. What is not said often matters more than what is spoken. What is not revealed often carries more force than what is declared openly. Men, intoxicated by desire and blinded by their own arrogance, rush to believe appearances. And appearances, as I have taught before, are the sharpest daggers in the theater of power. Consider this. A woman's smile may soothe a man's suspicion, yet behind it she may conceal contempt, resentment, or plans already in motion. Her silence, which a foolish man interprets as agreement or submission, may be nothing but strategy. An elegant pause that allows her to observe, to learn, to measure the weakness of her counterpart. Men rarely look beyond the surface because they are eager for comfort, eager to hear what they wish to hear. This eagerness is their downfall. For when a man clings to illusions, he becomes easy prey for manipulation. In the courts of Florence, I witnessed this countless times. Ambassadors, princes, even cardinals, who prided themselves on their ability to negotiate, were undone not by men with armies, but by women who understood the subtle art of concealment. A letter never sent, a word deliberately withheld, a glance that implied more than it revealed. These were the weapons that swayed powerful men into decisions they believed were their own. Yet the truth was that these decisions were planted like seeds in their minds, nurtured by careful silence and calculated mystery. It is not the direct sword that cuts the deepest, but the unseen hand that guides it. And women have long understood that concealment is a power greater than confrontation. When a man confronts directly, he risks resistance, retaliation, and rebellion. But when a woman conceals her true intentions, she disarms suspicion. She is free to maneuver while the man rests in false security. In this way, the hidden always defeats the visible. Men fail to comprehend this because they hunger for certainty. They beg for clear answers. They demand explanations. They crave declarations of loyalty or love. Yet in this hunger they become predictable. And what is predictable is always vulnerable. A woman, however, understands that ambiguity is a fortress. To say less, to reveal nothing, to let her actions remain cloaked in mystery. This is not weakness but strength. For it keeps the man uncertain, and uncertainty breeds dependency. Think of the game of chess. The wise player does not reveal his strategy in his first moves. He positions pieces quietly, concealing the true attack until the opponent is already entangled. A woman plays a similar game, though her battlefield may be the household, the court, or the heart of a man. She does not declare her strategy, because victory is born from concealment, not exposure. The man who believes he sees everything is already defeated, because he is blind to what is deliberately hidden from him. But do not mistake this for trickery in the petty sense. Concealment is not merely deception, it is survival, it is strategy, it is power refined into art. A woman may conceal her discontent in order to preserve peace until the moment she can act decisively. She may conceal her ambitions until the time is ripe, knowing that men, threatened by ambition, would move to block her if they saw it too soon. She may conceal her true feelings not out of malice, but out of wisdom, for she knows that revealing everything makes one vulnerable, while revealing nothing makes one untouchable. And yet men fail to see this lesson. They confuse concealment with passivity, silence with obedience, mystery with weakness. This misinterpretation is fatal, for a man who believes concealment is weakness exposes himself freely, handing over the very tools by which he can be controlled. He opens his heart, his purse, and his loyalty, thinking himself the master, when in truth he has become the servant of the one who reveals less. The lesson is brutal but undeniable. Those who conceal gain the advantage, while those who reveal lose it. In matters of war, a general who discloses his plan is doomed. In politics, a ruler who speaks too freely of his intentions is overthrown. And in love, a man who bears his soul without reserve is conquered not by force, but by his own eagerness to be understood. Women, understanding this truth intuitively, conceal themselves, and in doing so, they hold power over men who remain blind to the game being played around them. So, understand this truth well. Concealment is not a defensive tactic. It is an offensive strategy. It is not the absence of action, but the highest form of action. It allows one to shape reality without ever revealing the hand that shaped it. And this, above all, is the reason why women so often bend men to their will without raising a sword, without raising a voice, without ever appearing to command at all. If concealment is a woman's shield, then emotion is her sword. This is the second truth you must recognize, for it is one men most often refuse to admit. Where men attempt to dominate with force, women wield something far more subtle, far more piercing, and infinitely more effective, the weapon of emotion. Tears, affection, silence, anger. These are not random expressions of feeling, they are tools. Tools that shape behavior, bend decisions, and enslave men without a single blow being struck. And yet how often do men fall victim to them, believing them to be pure, spontaneous, and sincere? A man sees tears and thinks they must spring from helplessness. He hears soft words and believes they must flow from affection. He watches anger unfold and assumes it must be born of genuine passion. But rarely does he ask, what if all of this is deliberate? What if these emotions are not natural storms of the heart, but carefully summoned tempests designed to control the outcome of the moment? Men are taught to fear armies, weapons, and rivals. Yet history shows us time and time again that empires have collapsed, not because of superior soldiers, but because of the invisible grip of emotional influence. Consider kings who altered laws to please their lovers, rulers who sent men to die because a woman wept, leaders who surrendered their judgment because they mistook affection for loyalty. These men were not conquered by armies, they were conquered by emotions. And once conquered, they often never realized it until it was far too late. Do you see the brilliance of this weapon? Force awakens resistance, threats provoke defense. But emotion disarms, it bypasses the rational mind, seizes the heart, and makes men act against their own interest, while believing they act by their own will. What is more dangerous than an enemy who can make you act as if their cause were your own? What is more effective than controlling a man so thoroughly that he thinks he is free? Men hunger for validation, for affection, for the feeling of being wanted and needed. This hunger blinds them. A word of affection in the right moment can silence his doubts. A tear can halt his anger. A cold silence can torment him more than the harshest insult. And the more he values these emotions, the more power she gains. It is not brute strength that ensnares him, but his own longing to feel something that only she can provide or withhold. A man who fails to see this truth will always underestimate the battlefield he is on. He thinks he is negotiating with logic, when in reality he is being played by emotion. He thinks he is reasoning, but he is reacting. He thinks he is in command, but he is being commanded. This is why the strongest men have fallen, the wisest rulers have been deceived, and the most disciplined warriors have been undone. For all their strength, wisdom, and discipline, they could not resist the subtle chain of emotion because they never saw it for what it truly was, a weapon designed to control. In my time, I watched this with fascination. I saw men who commanded thousands of soldiers tremble at the thought of losing the affection of a single woman. I watched leaders who could sentence traitors to beg for forgiveness when met with silence or tears. And I realized that power is not always taken. It is often given away, willingly, in exchange for the illusion of love or mercy. A man who is desperate to be loved is a man who will surrender his crown without a fight. Understand this. Emotion in the hands of a strategist is not chaos, it is calculation. Anger can intimidate, affection can enslave. Tears can soften even the hardest judgment. And silence. Silence is often the sharpest of them all, for it forces the man to imagine, to question, to torture himself with uncertainty until he bends to restore peace. These are not accidents. They are methods. Methods refined through centuries of observation, through instincts sharpened by necessity, through wisdom passed silently from one generation to another. And men, proud as they are, rarely prepare for this. They learn how to fight, how to argue, how to dominate with reason or strength. But when confronted with the storm of emotion, they have no defense, because they never considered emotion to be a battlefield. This blindness is their defeat. For in every realm, politics love war. It is not the sword that cuts deepest, but the tear that disarms the sword bearer. So, reflect on this truth. Emotion is not weakness. It is power. It is not the opposite of reason. It is the master of reason. And it is not random. It is strategic. Men who fail to see this will forever live as puppets, believe in themselves free, while every choice they make is quietly guided by the hand that wields the weapon of emotion. The third truth, which most men never recognize until it is too late, is that weakness itself can be the most powerful disguise. Men blinded by their arrogance mistake gentleness for fragility, silence for submission, and humility for obedience. Yet what they call weakness is often nothing but a mask carefully crafted and deliberately worn. This is the illusion that disarms them, the illusion that allows women to hold influence without appearing to hold it at all. A man believes himself to be the stronger sex. He looks upon a woman's softness and declares himself her protector, her guide, even her master. But here lies the deception. By assuming she is weak, he lowers his guard. By convincing himself she cannot harm him, he makes himself vulnerable to the very strength he refuses to acknowledge. A fortress unguarded is more easily conquered than one defended with vigilance. And when a man sees no threat, he abandons caution, leaving himself exposed. History whispers countless examples of this illusion at play. Queens who seemed obedient to their husbands, yet quietly ruled kingdoms through counsel. Courtesans who played the role of fragile ornaments, yet guided the decisions of powerful men with subtle words. Even in households of new great renown, a woman's apparent weakness becomes the very instrument by which she gains control. She bends without resistance, and in doing so, she directs. She submits in appearance, and in doing so, she commands in reality. The man, proud of his strength, never sees that his strength is already being guided, already being bent to her will. Do you not see the brilliance? For power that does not announce itself is power that cannot be resisted. The general who shows his army invites attack. The ruler who displays his authority breeds opposition, but the one who appears powerless raises no suspicion, and therefore moves unchallenged. This is the art of influence hidden within weakness. Men see it as fragility, but it is in truth a strategy more refined than the loudest displays of force. A woman who appears fragile awakens a man's instinct to protect. She need not demand obedience. She only needs to appear as if she requires his guidance, his strength, his sacrifice. And once a man begins to act in her defense, he has already surrendered his power to her. For the more he sacrifices, the more invested he becomes. The more invested he becomes, the less he can afford to admit he has been deceived. Thus, the illusion of weakness not only disarms him, it enslaves him willingly. Even in politics, this strategy thrives. A leader who feigns weakness lures enemies into carelessness. A diplomat who bows too quickly convinces the opponent he has won, only to gain leverage later when it matters most. Women have long understood this principle, not always through deliberate design, but through instinct refined across generations. They recognize that what appears powerless is often the most unassailable. For a woman who wields weakness as a mask may appear incapable of conquest, yet she achieves conquest without lifting a sword. Consider how men treat defiance compared to submission. A defiant woman provokes resistance, sparks conflict, and raises suspicion. But a submissive one, she provokes nothing. She is underestimated, dismissed, overlooked. And what is overlooked is often the most dangerous, for it can act freely without ever being noticed. In warfare, the deadliest strike comes not from the army you watch, but from the one hidden in the shadows. In love, the deadliest influence comes not from the woman you fear, but from the one you dismiss as harmless. This is why the illusion of weakness is so effective. It cloaks ambition beneath humility. It disguises strategy beneath gentleness. It allows a woman to remain unseen, while she slowly directs the course of events around her. The man who believes her powerless becomes the very tool of her power. He thinks himself the master, yet he acts as her servant, never realizing that every decision he makes is already aligned with her design. And here lies the irony: men believe that by being strong, they dominate women. But in reality, it is their belief in their own superiority that enslaves them. They do not prepare for subtlety because they only respect force. They do not defend against gentleness because they cannot imagine danger within it. They fail to guard themselves against weakness because they think weakness requires protection, not vigilance. And so, they are conquered not through confrontation, but through surrender to the illusion they themselves created. Understand this lesson well: weakness is not always weakness. Sometimes it is a veil, a mask, a theater of fragility designed to hide immense power. And the man who cannot see past appearances is doomed to fall to illusions he calls harmless, illusions he even cherishes, all the while believing himself the ruler of a game he has already lost. The final truth you must confront is perhaps the cruelest of them all: men are not enslaved by women, but by their own ignorance. It is not the cunning of women alone that keeps them in power, but the blindness of men who refuse to see what lies before them. A chain does not hold a man if he can see it clearly. He can break it, he can resist it, but the chains forged by ignorance are invisible, and the man who wears them does not even attempt to fight, because he does not know he is bound. Men prefer illusions to truth, for illusions are comforting, while truth is brutal. They would rather believe that women are delicate creatures, guided only by love, than admit they are strategic beings capable of ruling through concealment, through emotion, through the mask of weakness. They would rather call women mysterious than admit their own failure to study and understand them. Ignorance is easier. Ignorance soothes the pride. Ignorance spares the ego. And yet it is ignorance that reduces men to pawns in games they do not even realize are being played. Consider how many men insist they know women, yet fall into the same traps century after century. The trap of believing affection always equals loyalty. The trap of mistaking silence for agreement. The trap of assuming weakness means harmlessness. These are not new errors, they are ancient ones. They have been repeated in the courts of kings, in the chambers of politicians, in the households of ordinary men, and still, despite history's endless lessons, men persist in their blindness. They refuse to learn, because learning would mean abandoning their illusions of control. Ignorance, therefore, is not simply an accident. It is a choice. A choice to remain blind because the truth is too unsettling. Men want to believe they rule over women, and so they cling to fantasies that support this belief. They imagine themselves as protectors, rulers, and guides. But in doing so, they refuse to see the subtle ways in which they are guided, ruled, and mastered in return. They comfort themselves with titles of power, while the reality of power slips silently into other hands. And this is why men's ignorance is their chains. For a man cannot resist what he does not recognize. He cannot defend against a strategy he does not admit exists. He cannot master a game he refuses to acknowledge is even being played. And so, while he boasts of strength, he is already subdued. While he believes himself free, he is already bound. His ignorance has enslaved him more thoroughly than any force could. What makes this enslavement so dangerous is that it is invisible. A man beaten in battle knows he has been defeated. A man betrayed in politics sees his downfall clearly, but a man ruled by ignorance sees nothing at all. He continues to act as if he is free, even as every decision he makes is shaped by forces he does not perceive. He continues to speak of control, even as control slips from his grasp. He continues to call himself the ruler, even as he is ruled. This illusion is the cruelest of prisons, for it requires no guards, no locks, no chains. The prisoner walks freely, never realizing he is confined. Throughout history, those who understood human nature wielded power with ease, while those who clung to comforting lies became victims. The Florentine prince who believed his courtiers loyal lost his throne. The king who believed his mistress harmless lost his crown. The soldier who believed his enemy weak lost his life. And the man who believes women are powerless, innocent, or incapable of strategy loses not only his judgment but also his freedom. He is not destroyed by them, but by his refusal to see them as they truly are. Ignorance is not a shield. It is a trap. To remain ignorant is to remain enslaved. To ignore truth is to submit to those who see it more clearly, and the tragedy is that men could free themselves at any moment if only they had the courage to confront reality. But most will not. They will continue to call women mysterious, when in truth women are only as mysterious as men are blind. They will continue to believe themselves masters, when in truth they are captives of their own illusions. They will continue to dismiss warnings until the cost of their ignorance comes due, and by then, it will already be too late. Now you have seen the truths that men have ignored for centuries. Women master concealment, and in what they hide lies their greatest weapon. They wield emotion not as weakness, but as a calculated force that bends even the strongest wills. They wear the mask of fragility, turning the illusion of weakness into the most effective form of influence. And above all, it is not women who truly enslave men, but men themselves, enslaved by their own ignorance, bound by their refusal to see reality as it is, preferring illusion to truth. These are not opinions, but laws of human nature, laws as old as kingdoms and as enduring as power itself. Those who understand them walk with clarity and strength. Those who deny them stumble, fall, and are ruled without ever realizing it. To live blind is to live chained. To see truth, however dark it may be, is the only path to freedom.